Hello everyone, Colin Canet here for Woodwork Web. Today we're revisiting something we did a few years ago, only this time we're making a wooden case for a Galaxy 6 smartphone. Stick around and see what we do to make this great little wooden case. Okay, well let's get started on this. The very first thing I did was to build a little tiny mock-up in wood of what my phone size is. And the reason for that is because we're always handling something and there's more chance that something's going to slip, it's going to fall on the floor, get broken. There's a quick shot of what that mock-up phone looks like. It's just a blank of wood, but it's the same thickness, the same width, and the same length as my phone. The next thing we need to do is to make the back, and in our case we're making plywood. To make the plywood, I'm going to be coating the back of this one and the front of this one, and we'll put those together. Then we'll coat this with contact cement and this, and we'll do the same with that. Now, before I get started, what I want to do is I'm going to tape these down so that they don't move around while I'm coating them. Okay, there's my two veneers that have been coated and have sat for about 20 minutes now. And all I'm going to do now is put the two contact cements together. And I use this veneer, what they call a veneer hammer, just to make sure all the bubbles are out and to give it a good, hard, firm pressing. Okay, now I need to do is do the same thing on these two sides. Okay, it's actually pretty flat too. There you can see there's a little bit of a curve, but once we get the strips on there, that'll flatten that down as well. Next we need to make the little pieces that are going to hold the phone to the back. And now, using my wood as a marker gauge, I want to move the fence over a sawtooth . The next thing I need to do is to cut a chunk out like that. Now my last cut, I moved the table right back, and there's the little notch right there that I'm going to be cutting out. What I have here is a piece of scrap wood, and it's flat on, well, on all four sides. But what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to tape my little piece of wood here that we're using to surround the phone, and I'm going to tape it onto this piece of wood and take it to the sliding miter saw. And this will ensure that the piece is not going to move around and that it's going to be safe to cut. And you want to use a few pieces of tape, and you want to pull it down nice and firmly all the way along. Okay, you'll see that I also decided to put a little bit more tape on there because this is now just a little piece when it gets finished, and I also wanted to fasten this down. So One of the toughest parts to cut is this little piece here that fits in the bottom, and the reason for that is because if you're blank, my blank is exactly the width of my phone, and if you look closely you'll notice that I've got some little black pieces on here. This is some foam that I had from a prior case. It's just a very thin foam, and the reason I put that on there is because my buttons stick out a little bit on that. So I didn't want the buttons to be touching against the side of the case when I'm putting it in and out of the case. So I wanted it to be just a little bit wider. So I've had to make the case ever so slightly a bit wider. I'm all ready to glue this now, and I'm just going to run a bead down all of the wood, and then I'm going to spread it with my finger. I don't want to put too much on there. Well, we've let that sit overnight. Let's have a look and see how this turned out. Okay, let's try using an awl here to pull that. There we come. Here it is. Ooh, look at that, slid right out of there. All right. Now we need some sanding to do. It's nice and flat now, which we would expect. What is this? How does our could be a little loose? That's what we want. I think that's going to work just nicely. Okay, there's our case, and the next thing I'm going to be doing is making holes for all of the connections and earphones and so on. I'm going to use a small Forstner bit to try and minimize tear out on the back side. Okay, the phone case is basically done, but remember it moved around a little bit in there. So what I'm going to do for that, and I did this on purpose, I wanted it a little bit loose because the buttons stick out a bit. I'm going to use this foam. It's a very thin foam and it's self-adhesive on the back. I'm going to run a strip on each side there, and that will not only keep it locked in there, it will stop it from moving around, and it'll keep it balanced in the case. Now I've just cut a couple of strips, and I'm just tamping them down here to make sure they stick because they're double-sided here. So the finish is all done. I've got 4 coats of Saicos on there. It's got a beautiful luster to it, not a gloss, but really easy to see the wood. And now we just need to check and see if the phone, let's put it the right way around, is going to fit in there. Oh, that's a nice snug fit. That's perfect. Now I've also got a top on here to finish this off, and oh, that just finishes that off nicely. That looks really good. And I've got some little teeny weeny screws that I've had from something else, so I'm just going to put those in there. And well, that concludes our project on making the little Galaxy 6 phone case. What a great little project this is. Now I know this kind of case is not for everybody, but if you're a woodworker, you may want to show off some of your woodworking abilities and make a case, something like this. It's not that difficult, a little time consuming, but you know, the results are well worth it, and there's lots of different options that you could make with this different kinds of woods and veneers. Don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed, we ask you to do that. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stick around because there's lots more projects that we've got coming in the future. And if you want to know more on the detail of this, you'll want to check out the article that we have on Woodwork Web, because some of the things that we didn't cover off in the video, we'll put in the article so that you'll be able to see some of the detail on that. I'm Colin Cadet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.